I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Okay, well, I'm so happy to be having this conversation. Thank you for making the time. Just, like conversation with friend. And I feel especially lucky to be talking to you because I think that we can talk about some tricky stuff together. And, I've been adjacent to hard things in your business that I'm not afraid to talk about if you're not.
No, we can talk about whatever you want. And I think, me being sort of an outsider to your industry, I might have some different views than some of your other guests on like this whole CPG thing, right?
But here's the thing I need to know. Commerce is chaos, right?
More than I realized when I was getting into this.
Yeah, right. Inside, outside, or upside down.
All of them. All of the above.
All of it. All of it. Well, let's launch right in. What has been, since we started with chaos, what has been like the most surprising or chaotic piece of launching this brand? And we'll qualify it. Like you just started this amazing business, Dead Meat Society. To give some color to it, I had like the privilege of being a part of product design and some contract manufacturing to get it off the ground, which is of course not without its chaos. But you're crushing it, and I'm so stoked for you. I find myself always looking for a word that's like proud is the word that I have, but it's not that, right? Because like we're peers, and I'm not proud of you, but I'm like excited for my friend, and I admire you.
Well,
And whatever that word is.
hey, I'll take proud. Proud coming from you is awesome. Yeah, yeah, without your help, it would have been even more chaotic.
Fair.
But I will say it was even chaotic with your help, and you're an expert in all of this. And so, I'm a computer security guy that decided that I was going to launch a CPG brand doing grilling and making these badass skull spatulas. And it took a lot longer and it was a lot harder than I anticipated. I think that is the biggest learning of, I thought we could go a lot faster than
Yeah.
we have. But I think the other thing too is, it's that iron triangle, right? Better, faster, cheaper. What do you want? You only
Yeah.
pick two, and then we all want all three. But the truth of the matter is some of the reasons I think we went a little slower with what we did is because quality was key. Quality was so important that we weren't going to compromise on that. And so, putting more effort into putting out a quality product matters to me. I know it matters to you. And so, yeah, it's a little trickier than anticipated.
Yeah. And I have to say too, some of that was a baptism by fire for you. Because I knew when we started, I'm like, oh, Jake, do we have to do it for Christmas? There's great commercial reasons to do it, right? Like you want to capture that demand. That's not a silly thing to want. That's like a really smart thing to want. But always doing it with a new launch with like something bearing down on you from the outside like that just adds this like, it adds an executional X factor and it adds an emotional X factor. And those two things smashing together are just like thread a needle and thread a needle and thread a needle.
You know what the funny thing is, whether I was in, before I, turned into starting my own company stuff, working in industry, or whether it's CPG or not, having arbitrary dates matters, right?
So
Because
true.
other things just tend to expand out, right? If you've got
Yep.
all the time in the world, people will fill it all up. What is that? Parkinson's law? They will always find ways to fill the days,
Yeah.
fill the time. And so I think back into my IT days. I mean, we're going to launch this website on Valentine's Day, and people would look around and go, what? And I'm like, yeah, and so I think having some of those dates and targets matters.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like there are reasons of like, hey, we want to be able to launch for Black Friday and we want to get out for Christmas. I think, as a founder, then you have to start making that decision of like, does the timeline matter or does the quality matter? And again, we made the decision. There were a couple things that we just weren't happy with, right? And like maybe customers wouldn't have noticed, but we noticed, and it
Yeah.
mattered. And being very intentional and very thoughtful about the brand and the product, then you got to make that decision that's sort of like heart-wrenching of like, all right, we're not going to quite make the timeline we want, but we're still getting the product that we want.
Yeah. And, and I think those investments compound over time, right? Like you could get away with a compromise here or a compromise there. And product design happens like on a scale of fractions of millimeters at the end of the day. So if you're, remember looking at your product and like there's these beautiful paint elements of it that, they really make a brand statement, and
Yep.
like the edge is not perfectly crisp. And we're like if you're painting a wall, that so would not matter, but you're painting something that's like, people are touching and they're near and they're cooking with, which adds a whole other bar of,
Whole other part.
yeah.
But, I did have this one reflection of like, are people really gonna notice this? And so
Yeah.
when I was trying to put it in, will my customers notice this? Well, mostly guys out there grilling, like really go, Jake, that thing's like slightly off. Would they give me grief? But the problem was I noticed, you noticed,
Yeah.
and like I couldn't let it go, right? We couldn't
Yeah.
let it go. And so I think it does matter when you're intentional. And that's one of the things I've tried to do with the whole brand, from the moment you hear about us to you buy something to the packaging to you, everything has been very intentional and a little more thoughtful. We just didn't want to be sort of like a normal brand. And we wanted you to have that feeling from the whole way through, and that you join the society with us.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is, to your point, like society, community, those are like hard to pin down, like hard to attribute, but like such critical elements of good brand building. And your attention to detail is an aspect of what will build trust and build that community. And without that, you really just got like a bunch of junk, right? At the end of the day, you have to have a community that cares
Yeah.
in kind of in the way that you do, and will come back for more. And so I think that you taking a stand like that is so intelligent, and ultimately will help to create a durable brand. And some a thing that happened to me that, and you're entering like a similar market, right? It's cookware. There's spatulas exist. Like they existed before I made one, they existed before you make one. There's
Yep.
another one coming to market next week. There,
Always.
and so you have to find a way to stand out. And you can do that not only on the basis of the product quality itself, but really what you're getting to is building a brand. When you
Yep.
build a brand, like that's the moat. And I remember we were ripped off within months of what we had done, which was
Yeah.
truly innovative at the time. It was like the very first one of its kind. And then all of a sudden it was one of a bajillion out there.
Yeah.
And so we just focused on product quality and brand as the moat. And that, I mean, it's 15 years later and they're still crushing it, which I'm
Yeah.
really proud.
Yeah. No, it's funny, sometimes the little things are a lot bigger than you even think as an entrepreneur, as a founder, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I knew that with the brand, I wanted them to have this feeling of being part of this community right away. And
Yeah.
so we went to extra lengths, like even I have some stuff to show, like,
Oh,
for
let's
some of
do it.
our merch and hats and stuff. We didn't want just like lame poly mailers. We got custom poly mailers, right? You know,
Yeah.
so like really nice stuff that when it shows up, you're like, oh, like this is
Somebody
great.
cared.
I'm
Yeah.
care. When we were working on for the spatulas, when we were looking at boxing and packaging, you can go really, really cheap, which sounds great. And we kind of did the opposite, right? We did these high end boxes, and a lot of the feedback that I've gotten has been, I knew these tools were going to be amazing when the box arrived, right? And I
Yeah.
think people overlook that. If you're going to spend this much time on just the box and the presentation, then I know that's a badass spatula
Yeah.
coming in there, right? Another thing that I did, um, in each one is each order is a postcard,
Yeah.
right? And that's a hand side
Yes,
original,
I know.
right?
Let's go.
Welcome to the society. You're now part of something bigger. We take
Yeah.
care of our own on and off the grill, because we do donate back to our communities a good amount of feeding people and
Yeah.
helping them, good families and stuff. So we did a bunch of stuff like that, that when you open it all up, then you go, wow, I am part of something. And the last show and tell, I've got them all here because we did
I'm
5
so
tools,
please don't make it end. This is
but
great.
the star of the show, da, 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 da,
It turned out so cool.
it turned out so cool. And these are those stripes that we were talking about.
Yeah.
They were way more challenging than either of us, I think you would agree, anticipated, right?
Yes. Yeah, and and then you get into like nuances of that, right? Which is like you can kind of guess, okay, this aspect of this thing might be high failure, right? Or we might have to QC it or whatever. Like this is going to be a hard aspect of what we're doing. And there's only so much that you can know how hard it will be. It's just sort of like it falls into the binary bucket of hard, easy.
Yeah.
but then you're in the hard bucket and you're like, but how hard? And little things start to come out in the wash. Like the factory's mad because they're like, we're wasting so many of these because we're ruining them as we're going. And factories are so, they weren't really mad, but they're like,
Of
they're
course.
in the problem solving with it. They're like,
Yeah.
wait, I thought this was going to cost us 50 cents for this part, but now it's actually costing us 62 cents because of
Yeah.
the amount of, waste or rework or whatever.
Yeah.
And man, factories are just so clever and innovative. The amount of, I've spent a lot of time on production lines, and the tools that make the tool just
Yeah.
fascinate me. And some of them are terribly sophisticated, right? Like huge machines and like, clean rooms and SMTs and all of that. And some of it, and like for your bait stuff, like it's just a guy carving some wood to
Yeah.
make a jig to make it
Yeah.
easier for him to like get that in this exact right place so that he can put tape on it.
100%.
Those are like the unsung heroes of stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
they're not fancy designers, but they are
Yeah. Well,
designers.
I love working with people and founders that want to solve problems and factories that are willing to do it and then don't shy away from it. So that was, one element. It took longer, which was sad. But the other thing was keep solving the problem, which was awesome. But think about it, right? Like we went from drawings. And so for anyone out there that gets a crazy idea that you can make skull spatulas too, or insert your thing, you have a crazy idea, you get someone to draw it for you. Just because you draw something cool doesn't mean it can be manufactured, right? So you go from like image, then you got to go to CAD drawings, and then
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, well that's not quite the same, but okay, it's close. And then you talk to factories, and they start pushing back, and so you have to stay firm, I think, to your vision too. I think that's one of the things that your team did well is they put up with me when I was staying firm on these things, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, you think we could just like not do those stripes? And by the way, just to sort of show you the difference, right? I brought this just for you. This is like a T1 sample, no stripes.
Yeah.
It is a
Right.
big difference.
It's a really big difference. Yeah.
Hey,
It's a whole vibe.
it's a whole vibe. And it's part of our brain, so there were certain things that it would be easier and we could go faster if we just like, what if we just do this? And, I think it's important to stick to the vision and then, be collaborative the best you can. But sometimes as a founder, you got to be the unreasonable man that says, no, this is what we
Yeah.
need to figure out. And it's amazing how teams with the right pressure, and if you handle it right, they will solve these problems, whether
Yeah.
it's factories or your consultants that work with you or your own teams. It can be solved. You just got to stay firm, but nice as possible.
But nice as possible. Yeah, yeah. Well, because at the end of the day, and I reflected on this a lot more from a customer service framework. I think about this a lot because I was our customer service line for years, and people would write it, same problem, whatever, like my thing broke or whatever would happen. And, you'd have some people write in with like kindness and empathy. And then some people were just like indignant and
Yeah.
like really like, entitled. And
Yes.
it's the same problem. It cost me the same amount of money to solve it and the same amount of time to workshop it. And man, I just hurt when I had to do it for the like entitled, indignant people. I'm like, could you just be nice? Like it's midnight and I'm writing back to your email. Can you just be nice to me?
Actually, I had a recent case of that. So right before the holidays, ultimately we'll say we did get some of these in time. We just shipping, we got some over quickly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put some up. An individual that I don't know went in and ordered and they selected rush delivery.
Yeah.
Great. Something in my Shopify setup, all right? Because, hey, just getting a product that's just part of the battle. Then you got to figure out how to like sell it and market
You're
it.
a
So there's a
plumber.
whole bunch of this, right? But there was
Welcome.
something wacky in a shipping profile that we hadn't seen before. And so it didn't go out as quick as it should. So it was definitely a mess up on my 3PL shipping guy side. No big deal, not a problem at all. Guy writes in and he was like, hey, I paid for this and I haven't got it. And, and he wasn't rude about it. It was just like kind of a very clear, like paid for, express
Yeah.
shipping and I didn't get it. So just like you said, here I am on my next company. I'm doing customer support. I'm all in there. Right. And so I'm like, I rate him back like almost immediately. Let me look into that. I'm not sure what happened. Right. So go and look into it. Yep. It's on us. And so talking with my team, I'm like, let's throw in a hat for them. Let's refund the advance. Let's do some nice things like that, unreasonable hospitality
Yeah.
approach. Let's be great about it. Right. The guy say, hey, here's your new ship date. No reply. I think I wrote that guy 5 times personally and never wrote back to me. Not once did he acknowledge like, "Hey, thank you for solving the problem." And like, we went way above, like throwing in new
Yeah.
stuff and all this. And I had a moment of like, he doesn't owe me anything. We're the ones that messed up. But I did
Yeah.
have this moment of like, man, like I'm invested in this guy now. I hope he's happy. And he never bothered to tell me he
You're
was
out
happy.
there. If you're listening.
Yeah, if you're listening, like, I hope you got your extra hat and you love your stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's an emotional journey that, and like the relationship with every individual customer is just so, at the end of the day, I'm just like, we're just kids putting cool stuff into the world,
Yeah.
and
I
you
think
kind of want
that's
to be
true,
seen for
right?
that.
I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of founders that you have this idea and it's your baby or whatever the analogy, and you really
Yeah.
care about it. But there also are like I'm running into a lot of other founders that are just like randomly drop shipping products and like they just
Yeah.
pick things and then like I don't know if they have as much emotional tie, Sam, as
Yeah.
you and I do on some of these things that we're building and we care about. So I love the passion behind my brand and seeing others. I'm not as always excited when they're like, oh yeah, I could care less about the brand. I'm just churning out ads to sell stuff. Like,
Yeah.
not for me.
I've always felt like a weird, I think you're really right. And my businesses grew slowly because they were organic and didn't spend much money on ads and couldn't afford much actually because we were selling such inexpensive things. And that meant that it was just like a real grind to get it all done. And then I would watch these other guys like just skyrocket. And like felt this weird sense of envy that like, man, I wish I cared a little less so I could make a little more money.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, I don't know where to put that feeling. But it's there. It's definitely there. Like if
Well,
you
I'm
care a
even
little, yeah.
experiencing it now, right? Because I mean, it's funny now, sort of being multiple founder
Yeah.
and running in circles of a bunch of founders. You can talk to 10 founders and you get 10 different answers on the way
Yeah.
to do things. So it's like exciting and also very little consensus on the right way to do anything, right? So there's a few that are like, oh, you just need to throw a ton of money in ads. And I'm like, oh, you need to give a whole bunch of discounts. And like none of that stuff like excites me, right? And
Yeah.
so but there is this thing of like it's a much slower grind to get those true 1,000 fans, whether you ascribe to that or not, and then building in the right way. And so speed, building fast, and then building the right way is not usually the same thing. I mean, if you can get both of those, then bless you, right?
Yeah. I think you hit on something that kind of uncovers a real truth in all of this, which is like there are lots of right. It's not that there's no right way. It's that there's lots of right ways. There are like a ton of options. Spend money on ads, give big discounts, URL the hell out of your website, go to farmers markets, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
all of those are
Yeah.
potentially right ways. And the most important thing to figure out as a founder is like which one are you willing to wake up and do every single day for potentially the rest of your life without ever getting tired. That's the right one
Yeah.
because there's like lots of good options, but they might not inspire you and they might make you sad. Like they
Yeah.
might be really, there were growth motions that we followed that eventually I was like, I am sad doing this.
I don't enjoy this part. Well, I will tell you, I did not think that I was going to turn into like a grilling influencer, right? But
Yeah.
here I am now on our Instagram account going, holding my phone up and like being like, "Hey, it's Jake, here I am." Like I was not what I expected for some of this, right? But there
Yeah.
is sort of, we live in a time now where like social media is fabulous and you can get out to everyone so quickly across all these platforms, but the signal to noise ratio is crazy. So to
Yeah.
like get people to pay attention, to get people to see what you're up to, you can do it yourself, or someone that has a big following is going to want a ton of money from you,
Right.
right? And like, that whole sort of user generated content versus influencers versus ads versus, I mean, there's just a lot to consider when you're launching something new.
Yeah. Are you a grinfluencer? Is that what a grilling influencer compounds to?
I don't, my title is Chief Grilling Officer, right?
I love it. Yeah.
CGO, baby.
I mean, okay, so let's talk more about the community piece of it because that was really that is this business. And or at least how I perceive it is like you are cards on the table. Your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com, mention Commerce is Chaos when you reach out, and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache. Building a community to contribute back to society in like a couple of very, very important ways. And you just happen to sell products. That's like start with the why is, I think, such a good approach. So share a little bit more about like where this
You're
started.
giving me a little too much credit here. So let's step back, right? So after being sort of asked to move on from my cybersecurity company that was acquired, then I started trying to figure out what I was going to do next, right? And being a tech guy, you would think it'd be some kind of AI security, something like that. But my lizard brain just could not let go of this skull spatula concept, right? So this all started with no community, it was not a mission-driven brand from the beginning. And the weirdest way to put it is I just realized that I love being an entrepreneur. I love going from 0 to 1 and creating things. And so the idea of like, maybe I just create 100 spatulas. That'll be fun. It sounds strange now, but that was really going to get me out of my funk of like, hey, I'm not doing this cybersecurity company anymore, right? Like that's how it started. And very differently, when I was building my cybersecurity company, I was super secret squirrel. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't say, hey, I think I'm doing this thing. What do you think about it? With Dead Meat Society, once I got it a bit further, I started talking to people like you, how we met. I was like, hey, I'm willing to talk to you. And even if I would have thought about it, I could have been like, is she going to steal my idea? She's the spatula queen, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so, but I just decided, hey, I'm going to tell people what I'm up to.
Yeah.
And as I started talking to people, I started to realize that, man, there's a lot of people that feel similar to me. So the skull spatula was just an entryway into the grilling community. And then to talk about sort of this loneliness epidemic that's going on and food insecurity. And it sounds crazy, but those are the two sort of main missions that have come out of this is like, we're really just trying to figure out a way to get a bunch of people together in real life to have fellowship and spend time together instead of doom scrolling and fighting about politics online all the time. Like get together, grill some food, and then feed people in need, homeless, first responders, whatever it may be. So the mission part for me, I'm never a guy that's like, oh, there's this mission I have to solve and I'm going to save the world. Like I don't do that. But what I love is when you come up with an idea and then the mission finds it and just feels so natural. And that's why I'm proud of Dead Meat Society.
Yeah. You should be proud of it. It's so it's so wholesome despite how edgy it is. and I really relate to that. Maybe I'm edgy despite how wholesome I am or I desire to be.
You can get away with it.
And I think that that's one of the things also that allows the brand itself to kind of break out, right? Is that there's like a little bit of a slightly disruptive expectation, which is where surprise and humor comes from. You see a big skull and you see the words Dead Meat Society, and there's like a lot of assumptions that someone might make or bring. And then you sign up for the newsletter, which this is like such a great newsletter, you guys. So you got to sign up for this. The fact that it's called spam.
The only spam you want to open.
Right. And then you start to see underneath not the facade, but just the front layer of it, right? Like you're peeling back the onion and you're like, oh my gosh, there's like just really interesting stuff here and like people that really care. And that has been a joy to participate in.
Yeah. The other thing too, if I look back and we're probably a year and a half, the idea was a long time ago, but a year and a half into really, really building, maybe more. So right around that time, the fact that this started off, this didn't start off like as a major business plan and like a pitch deck and I'm going to raise money. I mean, again, it started off as like, just going to do this thing because I want to like make some badass skull spatulas. And then now that it's evolved, what's interesting is a lot of the strategy and the mission and it's sort of like this wet piece of clay that's been molded And it's been very different than how I've built companies in the past, or I think a lot of people do. So for me, I'm like pretty excited about that element that like the brand is not about me. It's about
Right.
the members of the society. And so by focusing on the members of the society, and you've seen it in our newsletter, we highlight our members, we try to highlight, we call it meet and greet, highlight local businesses. We're not trying to highlight the big folks out there. We're highlighting like backyard, grillers and tailgaters and people that have been doing this forever and giving them attention. And by focusing on the society, it in turn has focused on building the brand of the company, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what's been great about it. And now, the first couple of products came from me. Okay, great. But the next products, the intention is not, it does not come from me. It comes from ideas from society members. What do you guys want next? You've been working on that barbecue sauce rub forever in your backyard, but you have no idea how to launch it with us. And
Right.
so a very different approach than if you look in sort of the grilling barbecue influencer world. Most of those people, they're all amazing. So don't take this the wrong way, anyone listening, but they're mostly about what they're doing. And so if
Mm,
you go to their sites, it's all about my stuff. Look at me,
yeah.
look at my stuff.
Yeah.
And the Dead Meat Society is about look at the society member stuff. So that's a big difference.
That's really clever. Are there things for okay, so cybersecurity, right? And I love you said secret squirrel. Like, does any of that translate? Like, is anything that you learned at your first business useful to you here? Or is that like totally uncharted territory?
It's interesting. There are some things that translate, just business type things.
Yeah.
There is so much that is absolutely new. If I think about the cybersecurity company, right, it's business to business, SaaS, right? Software as a service for those watching that aren't in the tech space, right? So and it's, you're selling to enterprises mostly of what I did. This is direct to consumer product goods, very, very, very different. So I think from, you know, finding product market fit and how do you do that and getting a product done and testing and like getting out there, I'm finding it very, very different. So that stuff doesn't translate. A lot of the basic, I'll say, management skills that, I've learned over the time, setting arbitrary dates, doing these things, like those are things that I think translate. But there's some stuff that I had expectation that we could go a lot faster. And I know I keep saying this, but I thought I could test and go a lot faster than we were able to with a physical product. But I
Yeah.
will tell you, there is something about holding a physical skull spatula that came from the lizard brain and like, look at this versus, hey, log into this software thing we created. Like it's
Yeah.
so much more rewarding and amazing. And whether it's friends and family or people that have seen what I'm up to, or when we post on LinkedIn that people are like, what the heck are you doing? Like
Yeah.
cybersecurity to like spatulas? Like they think it's nuts, but when they actually are able to hold something, it
Yeah.
hits a little different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. I mean, because I've been on, that
The
I don't know if
reverse
they
journey.
hamster wheel, but like like a reverse journey of sorts. And always find myself drawn to just high adjacency with with physical things that I can see and touch and feel. And I think that's one of the things that interests me about the software that we built is that like
Yeah.
it is enabling all of those things, it's the rails that allow the whole engine to go. But I think I would be a little bit lost in a sea of abstraction if I was building anything else. Like I like to, I can code. I like to build little tools for myself, but I'm never as happy building a tool to solve like an abstract, just like internet problem as I
Yep.
am building a tool that like helps me that I can like touch in some way.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And you've got a great intersection of your career of doing products and now software to help people do products and helping crazy people like me with ideas to make them happy. So like I see where you're going with that, but I will tell you it like for me switching from the tech side to here, there is just like this whole stack of tools and software and stuff that's very, very different.
Yeah.
And so there is some level of excitement of like, oh, what is this? And then at the same time, you're like, the frustration of like, how many more places in Shopify do I have to I thought I hit everything that I
Right.
needed to do. So now I need this plugin thing here. Oh, and I'm not doing this and this. And so there's this level of like, as a founder in the CPG space, like there is, again, we've talked about this, but I don't think there's one clear playbook and stack that is like, hey, here's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so there's some level of problem solving fun. And there's another thing of like, the last thing I want to do, go in there and brand some Klaviyo thing. I thought I branded all those. I thought all those workflows worked. What do you mean there's one that I missed by accident, right? I spent hours on this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's, I always call it plumbing because it's like, at the end of the day, I thought I was signing up to do one job, and then but my job was so much more by just setting up
Yeah.
Klaviyo, setting up Shopify again, setting up Shopify's connection with my 3PL, and actually I think, in part, that's why we started to build our own software because I was like, I'm so sick of using other people's limited tools. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to make this thing that will make the behind the scenes of my engine run in a way that feels, like thoughtful
Yeah.
and, and feels like in alignment with all of the different, I mean, I was just stringing data together from all these different places. Like,
Yeah.
for the love of Pete, can this be under one roof? So yeah, I feel for you in the dark of night in your secret squirrel mode, like
Uh,
yet another setting. Tell me about is it just you doing this still? Are you building the team? How are you thinking about that? I know you built a really big business before. Does that
yeah.
translate here?
Well, well, the interesting thing is, in some ways, I'm still like a recovering CEO founder, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not entirely looking to build a massive team and like have stand-ups at like 8 something in the morning. I don't like mornings to begin with. I don't want to stand at meeting, like so I'm trying to engineer this next phase of my life where there's purpose and meaning and I'm building and I'm doing things and I'm excited about that creation. But at the same time, like I'm not really interested in jumping back into like the full on startup thug life and going crazy. I'm having a hard time finding that balance because every time I want to go faster, I'm like, I'm the bottleneck for a lot of things because it's sort of mostly me. Now, finding great partners, like I was fortunate and blessed to find you. So like I can, hit you with my problems. And you've been amazing when I'm texting like, hey, this tariff thing's really making my eye twitch. Like we need to talk, right? Or I've got a great guy that's helping me, do the newsletter. And then another really good friend was doing all of the design. So like, not at all saying, hey, this is just me, but on the operations side of it, right now it's mostly just me. And I'm in that phase of like, all right, I want this to be serious. So I need to treat it as serious and I need to bring on people, whether they're, fractional helping with marketing or merch or shipping or whatever. Or is it time to get some people that are like, all they think about is Dead Meat Society, brushing their teeth, they're thinking about Dead Meat Society
Yeah.
like that. Is it
That was a
time? And I
product idea,
think it is.
just a jerky shaped toothbrush.
Yeah. Hey, another product idea. You going to design this one for me?
Absolutely. Jerky toothbrushes will be I hope someone does that one day. I hope it's you.
Man. It's interesting though, like learning. So here's the other funny thing. You're an expert in what you do. And, I always hate to say I'm an expert in cybersecurity, it just sounds sort of bad, but I knew cybersecurity really well. Right. You
Right.
can go out and like look me up in YouTube and I'm like slightly nerd famous on a small level of like did a bunch of security things. Going into the grilling space and the CPG space, not expert.
Yeah.
So I'm not even a good griller. I like grill burgers and drink bourbon. I'm not like some barbecue guy, right? So building a company where you're not the expert is also really, really eye-opening. And that's actually a lens that I was shying away from, but now I'm leaning into of like, hey, I'm not great at this stuff, right? So like, I'm not out there being like, here's how you trim and do a brisket. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Like, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other people that are trying to figure this out, whether it's grilling or building a company or whatnot. And so I think that's been really something that slowed me down in the beginning because I was like, man, I don't want like grilling barbecue people to be like, dude, get off my lawn. Who are
Totally.
you? Some
Yeah.
cyber nerd trying to think you can grill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I so know what you mean because literally took the opposite path. And when I started building software a few years ago, I was like, I mean, I've always been handy with code, but like, I don't building all of the, oh my gosh, I'm going to say it. You're going to hate me for saying it, the operating rhythms of a software company. Just like, how does this work happen? I know how to make work happen, but how
Yeah.
does this work happen? And how do I optimize that? And like, how do I get comfortable feeling so stupid all of the time? Like, especially having come from a place where I was, an absolute subject matter expert. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, I think this is how this distributed system works, but let me go like read a 30-page blog post about distributed
Sure.
systems so that I'm
Well,
not like,
you are like me. Sometimes you know enough to be dangerous, right? Where
yeah,
you're like, you're reading and then you're going to the people being like, hang on a second, I think it should go like this. And then the people are looking at you. But sometimes you're right. That's what's also interesting. You can hire people and bring people on. And sometimes your gut instinct as a founder is still right to push for something to say,
yeah.
hang on a second here, instead of just blindly taking what people tell you you need to do. So that contrarian is important. And I think that you can be a good contrarian when you're well researched. Right? If you're low information, you're going to struggle on some of these things.
Yeah, and I think that's the critical element is just being willing to read and learn and talk to people and like go find ways to get yourself sort of better informed so that you can be dangerous in the right way. Because being dangerous in the wrong way is like being, I don't know, rude and unempathetic with
Yeah.
someone who's like, the thing you're asking for is impossible because of XYZ. Sam, software doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I don't want it to seem insincere, but, a lot of times, like, saying no, that's not a good answer, right? If it takes 5 no's to get to a yes because that it's always been done this way. I mean,
Right.
whether it's software, whether it's, manufacturing, there are ways to solve things. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I think those people that have been in the industry for so long, they just have one view of it.
Yeah.
And their view doesn't necessarily need to be the view. I mean, from a tech standpoint, vibe coding was not a thing when I was building my company, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still not, huge vibe coding fan, but you can figure out the front end of software and get really close to what you want it to look like in days where that would take months and months before, right? So like I don't want people to go out there and think they can just, go into some vibe coding software and next thing you know, they have enterprise software that's going to stand up to everything. But you can get a lot further, a lot faster, and then show it to the developers and say, this is how I think it should work. So I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that's changing. So don't ever let some IT person tell you the answer is no. There's a way to solve whatever you want.
That's refreshing. I want to go tell him you said that.
On the phone.
Well, so I had some of that. I learned a hard lesson, an expensive lesson a few years ago because the original stack for our system was like, it was microservices because I thought, okay, like that's just how enterprise software should be done. And I was listening to some people, I was reading, but I was listening to some people who were giving me advice that was colored by their own experience.
Yeah. And that was a hot fad for a while,
Hot,
and now,
so hot. Yeah. Well, you know what really put I don't know if it's a nail in a coffin. I don't know if it's that discreet, but AI and having like a single source of data to just drink from. I
yeah,
mean, microservices make that really difficult. So I'm grateful that I did learn that expensive lesson, but right before it became even more expensive, which is to
yeah,
say that like we rebuilt not fully monolithically, but more monolithically later. And now I'm like, oh yeah, so smart.
yeah. You know what's funny? I think this is the other thing, and again, I think this applies to any industry. When you're staying in the loop and you're reading something and you're like, "Oh, this is how all the cool kids are doing it now, and this is what I should do." That doesn't necessarily apply to where you are, right? So, like, building new software, I wouldn't push anyone in microservices, right? You're just trying to get something that can work and up and run, and a monolith is fine. When
Yeah.
you get so big that you've got like 10 different products and you're a bigger company now, and now you like to fix one bug in this one little thing, you have to push the whole thing. All right, now we're talking about something that might need to be broken out, right? But I think that's the concern sometimes is if you listen to, oh, this is the way it should be, this is the new way to do it, that you push yourself in a way that you could do that, but like that does not really, it doesn't really apply for your situation of what you're up to.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that's so important to calibrate too, is just like there's a lot of right answers. Which one is the right one for you right
Yeah,
now is really what
yeah,
you have to sort of like seek. And since that answer, since that is it's ephemeral. It's like
yeah.
you got to trust your gut at the end of the
I
day.
think even this time around for me, I think it is founder decision. Trust what you think is right. You always want to listen to advisors and vendors you're paying. You want to listen to things, but at the end of the day, it's your company. You got to make the decision of what's the right call. Sometimes I think people can just listen to advisors too much that don't have that skin in the game or the passion, and they're like, oh well, that didn't work out for you. Sorry about that. Like, that's not great. So your own gut decision, go with that. Definitely.
Is there like, okay, tell me about a couple of gut decisions you made in bringing Dead Meat Society to life that you have maybe enough distance behind it that you're like, yeah, rear view, like that was a gut decision, but it paid off.
So there's a bunch of them. Let's start with the first. So the first, and you can kind of see behind me here, this risk-based security logo. Branding wise, when you're running a tech company, like no one's going to wear a shirt with your logo on it. No one cares about endless commerce. I'm not wearing an endless commerce logo.
Okay.
You will. You will.
No, I will, but
Right?
no one else
And
will.
your employees will, and they'll proudly wear it, but it doesn't, the branding needs to make you look professional and trustworthy, but it doesn't need to be something that like people are like, oh, that's amazing. Right. And
Right.
so the first best decision, Buddy Joe runs a high-end design firm up in New York, worked with him and he was like, I got you on brand. And so we spent time and effort and thoughtfulness about the brand. And I won't even go into like because we went through a whole identity palette. What are the colors? What is the typography? And what's our feel? And what's all these, even those stripes and like we spent a lot of time on it. Even with the DMS skull, you see the DMS in the skull. Like that is stuff that my past life I'd have been like, just AI, whatever logo, it doesn't matter. So I think first best decision was be intentional and thoughtful about the brand. That's going to be everything with it. And that's paid out really well. The other thing, and I would say even maybe some members of your team, were really trying to talk me out of the skull spatula.
What? That
Really.
was the whole point.
Oh, I know. But the number of times that it was like, this is going to be a little hard. Like, are you sure we can't just like, put the logo, like laser it on? I'm like, no, there must be a skull. Like I stayed firm on that.
I was not in that meeting.
A number of times. It was a little wild, but
Yeah.
it was true. It was more complicated. Someone hadn't really done that. I mean,
Yeah.
heck, even the tongs. We have skull tongs,
They're so
right? They're killer. But it was like, when you're pushing for something new that I can't say someone hasn't carved stuff into things, but this element it was a real like, goodness, how's this going to happen? Right. So being that unreasonable, like, no, this will work. We got to have this. And yeah, you're right. Some people may be concerned that it won't flip burgers as well because it like the design will cause problems and like don't you want this? And I'm like, we'll do another one. We'll do just a normal burger, right? But we want to have this sauce. So I think the two things right now to answer your question is firm on brand if it really is consumer facing. Like make sure you're really clear on that identity brand. What's it all about? I mean, I won't say annoyed, but I was trying to go fast. And so when it was like, man, we got to slow down and like really think about the brand and all these things. I look back and go, that was the right call, right?
Yeah.
I would have just wanted to get going. I want to get something up, but I think being super intentional about the brand and then sticking to your gut, whether it's software or whether it's a product, if the whole intention of your thing was, I want to make software that solves this problem, don't sort of take the easy exit ramp and be like, oh, well, I got close. Like stay to the vision of like what you're trying to accomplish. What is that problem that you're trying to solve out there, that pain point, whatever it is, and stay on course, get it done.
You tug in a couple really interesting things, one of which is like, okay, we really have to trust our guts, but we also have to know when to fold them, like, or when to trust someone else's gut.
Yep.
That is so hard to calibrate for. Like, trust
Yeah.
my gut until some moment when I'm not supposed to. And that is a gut thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of you just have to feel your way through it because there are so many decisions around, just in every vector in building a brand where you really need to follow what you believe and then having trusted. Yeah, you go.
So if we step back and we think about like leadership principles, like servant leadership got really huge over the last couple years, right? And it's like, hey, you as a manager to step out of the way, like clear roadblocks and let your team and just make them amazing and they're going to do everything and like it's not about you. And I think in some ways and in some companies and with the right team, that makes total sense and I'm all in on it. But in a lot of different ways, the phase of a company, the early phases of a company, that is not the right approach. If you're trying to do something innovative, if you're trying to sort of make a big difference, if you're trying to go, what are those kind of things? you really need a more founder-led directional sort of vision that kind of pushes back a little bit. And as the company grows, there are times where, and I've gone through this a lot where my team would come into me and they would say, "Hey, we want to do this." And I would look at it and I was like, "Well, I just can't see this working." And I like could not get out of my brain of like, damn, I don't think this is going to work. But there were times that I would say, all right, let's test it out.
Yeah.
And then, when it went down the path like I thought it would, I didn't want to be sort of arrogant about it. But there are times I think where you got to let the team go and the team's going to make things better. And, even with Dead Meat Society, again, it's not been all my decisions. I've had lots of people offer advice and help and I'm pulling the best pieces of it, but I'm not taking all of one sort of thing because that
Yeah.
sometimes isn't the best. So you're right, but I do believe, just like we were talking about building software, at the stage of your company, you can sort of back off of some of those things. But early on, getting to that vision, getting to that brand, what you set out to accomplish, I think that has to be sort of really firmly founder led.
I agree with that. And I think two things come up for me when you say that. One, there needs to be like a nuclear source of energy for this stuff, right? It's just like someone who's obsessed. And you can build a team around that obsession, but I don't know that I've seen, I'm sure in the abstract it's possible, but I don't know that I've seen a team coalesce around like organically around a shared vision where there's absolutely no leader and have that just work on a 0 to 1 basis without
Yeah.
any frameworks or any like vision or any of that. I'm sure a team could coalesce around a shared mission of some sort, but like in product land, you have to have someone who's just like unrelentingly controversially obsessed with a mission to drive the traffic for it. And the other thing that I think resides in that person is a sense of risk tolerance and risk management and risk taking, which is to say that like from an advisory perspective, right, you don't want Jake to get hurt because this thing is hard. And, if you're an advisor, you're like, no, like have a more realistic timeline because we don't want you to miss the timeline or
Yeah.
don't spend more time on the brand because of whatever, all of these things where someone from the outside is sort of trying to like de-risk you, but
Yeah.
without a real intuition for how much risk you
Yeah.
are willing to tolerate or how well you can calibrate it. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, probably it's your money on the line. And that's one of the things I love about, I mean, I'm the beneficiary of venture backing and very, very grateful for it. We would not be
Yeah.
here without it. I've also bootstrapped a lot of stuff. And I can say, and I've invested in the things that my investors have invested in too. So
Yeah.
having that skin in the game is so important
Yeah.
because you are going to be challenged to survive. And if you don't have your skin in the game in the proper way, like you
Yeah.
won't be able to drive the progress and you also won't be able to pull back at just the right moment, when like the two jets are coming at each other and both of them turn right.
Yeah. And not to keep beating on this, but I think timeline stuff's really important. I mean, if you've got that energy and that momentum and you're trying to build a community, and then it's like a year plus later and people are like, when's that school special
Where's
coming out? I mean, like it really drags down the
Yeah.
excitement. So going faster, I think, is the better approach. But I think where people don't always understand is that like we can set aggressive dates and then if we hit problems or landmines then like we're just going to have to accept them. The same thing that happened with like, was I disappointed that we didn't get things out faster? Yeah. But was it the right call? Yeah. And no one's mad at anyone. Is it a disappointment? Yeah. I think we could have sold a ton for Christmas. Now we'll wait for Father's Day, maybe, right? So like there's always something, but I think people usually let fear bother them. They let fear get, "But what if we don't hit this date? So I'm going to put all this fluff in a timeline so we can hit what we said." Like, just be transparent about it. Hey, this is if we build into this is what it is. If everything goes our way, here's where we can compress things down. And I
Yeah.
think that's where I try to coach people, whether they're people I'm working with or work for me, of like, look, here's what we want to hit. What can we do to get that? What can
Yeah.
we control? And with that sort of momentum going, it kind of forces us like, hey, like if you want to hit those dates, we need a decision in 2 days,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then
Exactly. Yeah.
you wait 2 weeks for that, then it's pushed us out. So I still think that that's the right approach with some sense of reasonableness. And whether it's
Yeah.
been in this CPG world, and IT guys are the same, right? They'd say, "Oh man, that'll take 6 months to do." Yeah, I want it in a month. Well, and I'm like, don't worry about all the problems. Let's just let's just focus on what can we get. And if we need to strip things down to be more of an MB, what can we get done? Don't tell me we can't. Tell me what we can do.
Yeah, yeah. I find myself asking a lot, like, what would need to be, if I want this, then what would need to be true? Sometimes
Yeah.
the answer is you need 7 more developers. I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since we only have 10, I guess, what can we do?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's always gonna be sort of I think people are just scared to be held accountable, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it sounds bad to say that, but p people get worried, and I think if you can remove that and have more radical, candor, transparent conversations of like, "Look, we really wanna get this done, so let's do everything that we can," versus them, "Oh, we can't do that," and then, like, the vibe's just all off, like, getting them aligned on, like, "This is our intention, let's see what we can do to get there, and if we run into problems, let's work on it quickly to solve them." That's
yeah.
sort of that better energy.
Is there anything about this process that has been just, like, a totally joyful surprise? You're like, "I didn't realize I would like, setting up Klaviyo as much as I do," or something like.
I I think for me, again, recovering tech founder, like learning all the software has been fun for a bit, but then when it gets operational, and then I'm like, oh man, like so I've learned for me that like the fun stuff is the 0 to 1 creation. Like I think I've already told you, hey, we got 2 new products that I haven't even, really sold the other stuff yet, and I'm excited about the new product. So I think that has been the sort of the creation from nothing to what could be, and then, like, having it has just been man, it just feels really good, and then when you actually put out a high quality product and you're not just like, the first couple times I showed people, I was like, "Alright, don't tell me what you like, tell me what you hate about this, because like, I don't
Yeah,
want you to be scared to, like, be like, "Jake, these tools kinda suck. I know you've been working on it for, like,
yeah,
a year," but and so getting real honest feedback that, like, the idea and the execution, everything's come out, it's great, but sometimes it's hard to get that honest feedback from friends and family and people that you know, so, I don't know, man. I've loved the physical element of it and then getting real honest feedback. That's been great.
yeah. I love that, I love that. Yeah, like, the first time that someone who was not my family bought a thing that I had, it was like, "Oh my gosh, they could," like, like, they're
I gotta tell you, I
so
was telling
validating.
someone the other day, when we put out our first thing, all the orders that I saw coming in were people that I knew, right?
Yeah,
And so knew meaning that over the last year of talking to them about Dead Meat, or they've been in our Facebook group or on the mailing list or follow, like, so I knew that. But then when the first order that came in, I was like, I don't know that name.
I don't
Like
know
it
that
was a big deal. I was like, I hope they love it, but I have no idea who they are. And it was such like an excitement that I didn't think I would have.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. That's like a gift that keeps on giving. Like the first time you stumble into a shop and your thing is there, you're like, oh my gosh. Oh man, this has been such a great conversation. I would love to wrap with any like teasers that you want to give us about what's next. You don't have to, but if you have it, great.
All right, couple teasers. Well, first of all, if you're on Facebook, join our Facebook group. We do, people post images of them cooking, even like we're here in Virginia with a whole bunch of snow. Some people are still out there snow grilling, which is amazing. And then once a week, we do what we call the smoke show winner, where we pick like the best picture and all that sort of stuff. So like join our Facebook group, join the dead meat spam. I think you'll like all that. What's really coming next is our local chapters. And so what, I think we kind of told we have a give back. We give back to the food bank here in Virginia, Operation Barbecue Relief. So they're a really great organization. When there's like a fire or a hurricane or something, they come in with a bunch of guys that, grill and help people that lost their homes and stuff. And so we're making sort of good charitable give back. But, if you're out in California, like you don't really care about like a food bank in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
And if we're talking also about getting people together, it just can't be getting together in Virginia. And so we're creating this concept of Dead Meat Society chapters, and we're trying to encourage people to get together in real life. And I don't care if they go to a park, a church, a fireside, wherever you want to go, get together, grill, and then feed people. And so like that's it's really where we're going with it, to get more local. And so that, if you're raising money, it's for the local community, feeding the local community, getting people like, look, I love that I can talk to you online like this, right? This is amazing, but people need to get the hell out of their house and
Yeah.
get in life and realize we're all kind of similar, and we all, want to get together and
Yeah.
enjoy good food and help others.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. the mission. I really admire what you're building, and I really like the way that you're building it. It's so fun to just be on the ride with you and to watch some of the journey. And you're a really incredible leader. So it's been a privilege. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and we got to talk soon. We got more to do.
There's always more to do. Yeah, maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll do it. Over an open flame.
I love it. I'm going to hold you to it.
Deal. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.